At the beginning of the 1830s, nearly 125,000 Native Americans lived on millions of acres of land in Georgia, Tennessee, Alabama, North Carolina, and Florida. Their ancestors had occupied and cultivated for generations. By the end of the decade, very few natives remained anywhere in the southern eastern United States. Working on behalf of white settlers who wanted to grow cotton on the Indians' land, the federal government forced them to leave their homelands and walk thousands of miles to a specially designated Indian territory across the Mississippi River. This difficult and sometimes deadly journey is known as the Trail of Tears. The Indian Removal Act was signed into law by President Andrew Jackson on May 28, 1830, authorizing the President to grant unsettled lands west of the Mississippi in exchange for Indian lands within existing state borders. A few tribes went peacefully, but many resisted the relocation policy. During the fall and winter of 1838 and 1839, the Cherokees were forcibly moved west by the United States government. Approximately 4,000 Cherokees died on this forced march.
Here we can see the trails which were followed as the Native Americans were moved into reservations from their territory following Andrew Jackson's signing of their Indian Removal Act in 1830. Many became deceased or injured and died along the way. Seminoles living in what is now known as Florida initiated an armed rebellion. In late December of 1835, a group of Seminoles ambushed a company from the U.S. Army, killing all but 3 of the 110 men. In 1842, the war ended, resulting in many Seminoles being exiled to Creek territory west of the Mississippi. The government gave up and left an undetermined number of Seminoles in the Everglades as their resistance was becoming far too costly.
Sign this and leave your homeland.
We belong here.
Well, I'm forcing you to leave, or we will take measurements.
Are you sure,
Flee.
President Jackson?
Yes.
What's going on down here? Hey! What do you guys do? This is United States property.
This is our property. It's our homeland.
Leave now, or you will be hurt.
Says who?
Me and President Jackson. Alright, got it. Lincoln's killed Harambe.
Bastard.
In the winters, it was too cold to hunt, and as a result, the food was rationed to the Native Americans. Many starved as they were unable to keep their body weight as they were constantly moving and barely eating. To further complicate things, when summer came and hunting was good, they did not preserve any of the meat. Because they were constantly moving, they did not take the time to do so, making winter even more brutal. Most of the time, the clothes they brought were not sufficient to keep them warm, and at the very least, they would be severely frostbitten, and at the worst, they would succumb to cold. The men tasked with monitoring the natives would often beat or kill them when they stepped out of line.
One of the most significant impacts of the Trail of Tears was that it marked a point where Native Americans lost any semblance of power. The removal of different tribes to different parts of the United States disbanded them. It dislodged them from their homes and relegated them to a position of powerlessness. Another significant impact of the Trail of Tears is that it forged Andrew Jackson's legacy as one of the most cruel presidents. Even the most passionate supporter of Jackson has to admit that the Trail of Tears brings out a rather dark side to this leader.